Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Portal to Justice. I'm your host, Amelia Duran, and it is March 16th, 2019. And I have guest William Wagener here with me, the host of On Second Thought TV show and YouTube channel. And he's calling in live from Melbourne, Australia. Hello, William.
Good day, mate.
Hey. How is it down there? Under.
It's 11 a.m. or so here. Sun is shining brightly in the north sky as we go into the winter. And we had a terrible event happen here last Friday, our Friday, where allegedly 4 people put IUDs on cars of Islamic people going to a mosque in Christchurch, New Zealand. And one guy walked in videotaping himself as he did it from a body cam, and that's been published. And the authorities here are trying to get people not to watch it, not to show it, not to repeat it, but it came out of something like Pee-wee Cam. I've never heard of Pee-wee Cam before, but what it showed is a guy walking in with a rifle, shooting people in the opening of the mosque front door. What was odd is there were other people about to enter the mosque grounds from the street. He didn't shoot them. He walked past them and walked into the mosque and shot people there. And allegedly, according to the news reports we're getting here in Melbourne, Australia, which is like 1,000 miles away from New Zealand, 40 people died and at least 20 are injured, some severely. So the death rate may go up. But it struck me as very odd. They only identified one man. They said there was 3 men, 1 woman, and they have the 1 woman and 3 men in custody, but they only identified 1 man. It seemed to me that once you get them in custody, they run the fingerprints. It wouldn't take them long to identify who the other parties are. But as of yesterday, that's all we knew. One man by the name of something like Brent or Parent? Or Tarrant? Yeah. And it just smells to me like another co-op CIA black op operation to push the world to disarm itself. The reason I say that is Australians used to be quite fond of their guns. But about 10 years ago, some group of political idiots convinced them that they should all turn in their guns. So here you have a huge nation the size of a continent, and only the authorities have guns. But New Zealand has a gun control law too, but there's a lot of loopholes, and a lot of people in New Zealand still have private weapons. Christchurch is in New Zealand. And it strikes me this is just exactly the format the CIA follows when they're trying to get people to give up their guns. And we know the history of this. I have a video on YouTube called The Armenian Genocide. And that's where Hitler got the idea to take away the people's guns in Germany. Mm-hmm. In 1914, there was a general, I forget his name, General Remgate or something like that, in Turkey, which at that time claimed to be a secular Islamic nation, not a religious fruitcake nation like Syria and a lot of those in the Middle East. And they convinced all the Orthodox Catholic Christians to turn in their guns because World War I was budding, and first they had them register their guns, and then when they knew who had registered, they then confiscated all their guns. Then they marched the men out into a desert and shot them dead, about 1 million. And meanwhile at home, they were raping and murdering the women. And sometimes the rapes were quite brutal because they didn't just rape them. Mm-hmm. They would chop off their hands as they raped them. And there's photos of that smuggled out of Turkey by a Dr. Wagener, very distant relative of mine. Mm-hmm. Wow. So Hitler picked up on that. couple of decades later, and Hitler said the same thing: register your guns. We need to know how well that nation's armed. Good, loyal Germans obeyed the Fuhrer, registered their guns. Then they confiscated all the Jewish guns. Not everybody's guns, just the Jews. Once the Jews turned in their guns, they were defenseless. When these hoodlums would come to their door dressed in brown shirts or black shirts or even military or police uniforms, march them off to concentration camps and execute them. So this is a pattern well known, and it's leading to a greater genocide. Mm-hmm. That's my fear. And I'm watching this in Melbourne. I'm watching the authorities posturing how we're going to solve this. But they completely ignore that since the last decade that Australia has had no privately owned weapons, with extreme exceptions like retired high-ranking police officers might retain a gun, but the general population doesn't own. So what's happened is people who want to kill people are now taking their cars in Australia and driving them into malls, driving them up on sidewalks, and slaughtering, killing, 8 or 10 people at a time with their vehicle. So it hasn't stopped the crazies from doing crazy things. Taking the guns.
What do the locals feel about the political movement to remove the guns there?
Well, in New Zealand, where I have a few friends, their feeling is this was an Australian crazy nut. It has nothing to do with New Zealand. The guy that claiming did it, the only one, Terrence, that they've identified as Australian-born, and sometime after they banned guns in Australia, he moved to New Zealand where you could still obtain private guns. But these weren't ordinary private guns. These were military-grade assault weapons they were using. Mm-hmm. Plus, they did IUDs under some of the cars, so some of the people that might have fled the mosque, got in their car, would have exploded while they're trying to escape. So this, to me, smells like a CIA op. The average person doesn't know how to make an IUD. You had to have had some training, read a manual, or been in the military to know how to do that. And that's why I say this smells like another Central Intelligence Agency black op to get another nation to give up all their weapons. What strikes me as also peculiar is that the New Zealanders, their female prime minister was on television here in Australia claiming this is not who we are. Mm-hmm. And I think she's right. The New Zealanders are not crazy people running around slaughtering. These are some of the most peaceful people, and so what sense does it make to take the private arms away from New Zealanders? If indeed it was an Australian-born man who came and masterminded this thing. Australia's a little bit different. Australia has a more like an American attitude. They brutalized the native Aborigines of Australia and are still brutalizing with vaccinations that weakens them and makes them more sickly.
Does
New Zealand
did
not try.
Do they have a movement, William, equivalent to like the NRA here that we have in America?
I have to say I do not know. That's an interesting question, but I actually haven't researched it. I don't know. I just got to give you my impression, what I'm seeing. Yesterday I took a walk and went to the post office and met a man, Australian there, who immediately said such a terrible thing that would happen and be in Australia. And the man next to him said, "No, we need to get rid of the Islamics. There are too many of them." So these two guys are both Australian, started arguing, and I said, "Have a nice day, guys," and I left because I had a place to go, and I just went there to mail some postal things.
Well,
so the two were arguing, and one had a point. He said the Islamics have moved in here into Australia, some 700,000 they claim, and they're not obeying the Australian laws when it comes to butchering young girls' sexual parts when they turn 13 or 14. They do a circumcision of girls, and they're insisting that they have to do this. Now, if any Christian family had done that to the girls, they'd have been arrested and thrown in jail. The CPS would come in and take the children away. But Islamics are allowed to do what other Australians are not allowed to do. And this creates, now I could see it in these two guys, they were still arguing as I walked off into the distance. I could still hear them starting to shout at each other. You got one law for Islamics and a different law for the, Irish and English-bred Australians. And they very much resent it. And I don't know what this shooter was thinking, but I know there's a lot of hot feelings here just from watching these two go at it at the post office. So, and I had a few discussions with some moms that are fighting forced vaccinations here. And at least one of them, represented that view that the Islamics are moving in here, but they don't want to be Australian. They want to convert the whole nation of Australia to Islam by just insisting on their religious laws are better and predominate over the English traditional common law laws. So I just thought to give you that information. I have to run. I have an interview to do on the edge of the outback, outside of Melbourne here.
Well, yeah, I know you're pressed for time. Thank you so much for calling in, William, and my condolences to the families of these people. I mean, this is just devastating. It's horrible. All right.
It is, and the irony of it probably is the Islamic men that were killed there were probably not the hardcore Islamics that want to terrorize people. These are probably refugees. There's different sects within Islam, and these were probably the more peaceful Islamic people, not the hardcore to want to kill every Christian and every Jewish person they see. Mm-hmm. And it just strikes me as just so bizarre that it smells to me exactly like a provocateur Central Intelligence Agency operation. Until people read that book by Philip Nelson, LBJ, the mastermind of the JFK assassination, you read that book carefully and you will see at least 3 references to the CIA running the assassination of JFK. Until you read that and see the details of why we know Lee Harvey or Oswald did not kill Kennedy, had nothing to do except being the fall guy. Until you read that and read the details and realize Dan Rather lied to us, Walter Cronkite lied to us, all those people that I remember seeing in November 22nd, 1963, on TV telling us lies to convince us of the most ridiculous lie that a bullet from behind would make your head go backwards in the direction of the bullet, according to the government theory. Those that have studied physics know that by the law of conservation of energy, if a bullet hits you, your body's going to go in the direction the bullet's going, not the direction the bullet came from. And there is so much in that book called LBJ, the mastermind of the JFK assassination. Until you understand that the CIA has been running our government at least since the Kennedy assassination, probably since they were formed in the early 1950s, right after World War II, till you understand that it's hard to believe what I'm saying, is that this smells like a CIA black op to get New Zealanders to get rid of their guns, and they're the most peaceful people. Mm-hmm. And the Prime Minister was correct when she said this is not who we are. And I'm curious why the name of the woman and the other two men that were arrested has not been released.
Sure.
Because if there was more than one, it's not another lone nut case. It's a conspiracy of several people. The only organization that's able to pull off really good conspiracies that I know are people like you find with Bill Harvey in the CIA, who died in 1976. Anyway,
Well, it certainly
thanks for having me on the show. I've got to go.
Okay, William. Thank you. Okay, everyone. That's been another episode of Porthole to Justice Off the Cuff with William Wagener. He has a YouTube channel you can check out on Secomd Thought TV. It is a local TV show out of Santa Barbara, California. And he's a 22-year court corruption investigator. Really interesting guy on YouTube. Check him out and stay tuned. We have several more shows coming up. I think it's George Tanner show coming up, and I'm going to be having a pharmacist on the show that's going to talk about the last 50 years of birth control and the new birth control and what's available to the public. So tune in. You can subscribe on Spreaker.com. I'm on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm mostly active on Facebook. I have a new blog. It's a private blog. Check it out. Porthole to Justice. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Amelia Duran.